In the previous lectures, we passed in regular strings into isolate scope of the directive, interpolated strings, as well as objects and function references. However, sometimes what's needed is to pass an entire template rather than a string or an object. A fairly common use case is when you're coding a dialog box as a directive. That dialog box has to have the behavior of a dialog box, be able to close, perhaps provide OK and cancel buttons, but it also has to be generic enough to let its users provide the actual content for the dialog box to display. This is what yet another property on the DDO called transclude allows you to accomplish. Using transclude allows you to wrap arbitrary content with your directive, including expressions and function calls in your HTML template. The really neat part about all that is that the expressions wrapped in a directive that has its transclude property set to true are evaluated not in the directive's isolate scope, but in the parent scope. Let's see how that works. Step 1 is to define the property transclude on the DDO and set it to true. Step 2 is to use your directive and wrap some content with that. Note that any properties, interpolations, and such are evaluated in the parent controller, not in our directive. The last step is to use ng-transclude attribute inside of the template of our directive. That attribute tells Angular where in the directive's template to include the evaluated content that was wrapped by your directive in the parent template. That's pretty much it. It's that easy and that powerful. Let's jump into the code editor and see a live example of this.